Well, it's that time of the year, and people are out enjoying nature, camping and walking in the woods, and attracting hitchhikers along the way. And some of these hitchhikers might be in the form of ticks, and some of them as mosquitoes. But today we're going to talk about the ramifications of these bites and what we can do in both the acute presentation of them and the chronic. So my name is Mary Bourne. I'm a traditional naturopath. I love sharing natural remedies with people because they work. They've been around for thousands of years. And today we're going to talk about a couple of these old-time remedies. So hopefully you will enjoy today's class and share it with others. Give me a thumbs up, and we're going to talk about some prevention things, and let's get started here with the slides. And it looks like my slide presentation is, there we go. So what is Lyme disease? Well, Lyme disease may begin as a bacterial infection. It is caused by the bacterium Borrelia burgdorferi and possibly other related species like Borrelia mayonnaise. So it is transmitted primarily through tick bites, but it may also be able to spread through mosquitoes and other biting insects. So this is the traditional look of the tick bite. It looks like a bullseye. And you'll notice that the inflammation area is at the widest area of the bullseye. And that's because the tick injects their saliva, and part of that saliva has an anesthesia, so you don't feel it. And that's, mosquitoes, oftentimes you can slap it, you feel it. Wasps, you see them coming, they're identifiable. Bees, the same thing. But ticks are these tricky little guys that have this injection where you don't even know they're there, and you can be 6 hours later and not realize that this tick has bored itself into your skin. So even several days after the bite, the person typically develops this rash, and so the rash doesn't always appear right away. And it takes a while for the immune system to start mounting a defense, and it does this through fever and sometimes headache and fatigue. So it may be days later that you're experiencing the results of being bitten. So aggressive use of antibiotics typically clears up the acute disease, but there is way more. And because they disrupt the microbiome, these aggressive antibiotics create other concerns. So I have this remedy, which is, this broadleaf that a lot of people try to get rid of out of their lawns, and I harvest it and use it as remedies. So what I recommend is that when you go camping, the first thing you want to do, now most campsites you have some kind of ashes, and it would be preferable to have charcoal ashes, because charcoal is like a magnet, it pulls. And when you add charcoal to this broadleaf, you can mash it up using a little bit of water and create a paste, and keep that on hand during your camping. Put it in your backpack, put it in a little container, of course, and put it in your backpack. Now, the charcoal is gonna make everything messy, but the thing is that as soon as you remove the tick, you wanna apply like alcohol, but you also want to apply this salve to help draw out any toxins that the bug has inserted through its saliva. So you can mix it with aloe or if you have silver gel, that's really the optimal, because silver gel is antibacterial, antimicrobial. So that is a really good thing to have on hand for immediate use right after the tick bites. So there are essential oils that are available for kind of the smell of them can keep these bugs away, especially mosquitoes. And I have that in another video where I've taught how to make an essential oil bug spray that really works well. However, they sometimes get on you, and they get on animals. I also talked about when you're bringing an animal into the woods with you, one thing to use is diatomaceous earth. Now, diatomaceous earth is crushed seashells and algae. It can The tick doesn't like to get past that, so it can protect the skin of the animal. But the thing is, you don't want to breathe it in, because if you get it into your mucous membranes, it can be abrasive and hurt the mucous membranes. So it is a great idea to rub it on the pet like a dust, a powder, and keep these ticks from landing. But you still want to make sure that you do a good search. If you find a tick, you want to keep a plastic bag handy and put it in a plastic bag and then freeze it as soon as possible, because if you get conditions 3 weeks, a month later, you want to find out what kind of tick it was and what kind of poisons that it might have been injecting in you. So to remove a tick, now there's lots of tools available. One looks like a little teeny spoon, and the big thing is that you want to get under the tick, the front of the tick, and pull up on it. You do not want to just take a tweezers and yank it out. You want to pull up very slowly, apply a good amount of pressure on the skin right here, and then gently pull up. And then afterwards, sanitize the area. You can use silver, you can use alcohol. This day and age, everybody's got sanitizers with them. So, but if you have fever, headache, rash, or you aren't able to remove the tick, you need to seek medical attention ASAP, because you want to get rid of it. So here's the thing with the tick is that you want to scoop it so that you're pulling up from this snout that it has. And what it does is it injects saliva and sucks up blood at the same time. And some of the diseases that ticks are known for is chlamydia, rickettsia, which is the Rocky Mountain spotted fever, mycoplasma, which are the smallest bacteria and difficult to detect, and possibly others. So we're going to talk about some of the things that can be done, not only to prevent it, but to deal with it when it is in the chronic area. I'm going to see if, whoops, I can move my picture there. So according to the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, 10 to 20% of people treated for Lyme disease develop ongoing symptoms. Now, of course, that is a concern for a lot of people. So this condition that has been called post-treatment Lyme disease syndrome, so that's PTLDS, and it has been called chronic Lyme disease. So some of the symptoms are chronic fatigue, pain, especially migrating joint and muscle pain, restless or disturbed sleep, swelling in the knees, shoulders, elbows, and other large joints, decreased short-term memory, difficult concentrating. So you have this brain fog thing, speech problems, pain in eyes, teeth, or headaches, chronic flu-like symptoms, muscle twitching, chest pain, irregular heartbeat, shortness of breath, dizziness, and tremors. So it all really depends on where this bacteria resides, and oftentimes it will go to the path of least resistance, which is where the body is got weak points or has weak tissue. So it really is important to be strong and healthy, eat right, sleep well, get the amount of exercise that you need, drink lots of water. All of these things will help lessen the ramifications of getting a tick bite. So the problem of PTLDS, it has been estimated that about 300,000 Americans are infected with Lyme disease each year. Now that's way more than those people who have gotten COVID. So many of these people become ill, but don't know why, because many medical doctors aren't trained to recognize PTLDS, and it is often difficult to test for. It is a spirochete, which means it looks sort of like, you know, those noodles that are like corkscrews. Well, that's exactly what it does. It corkscrews into a blood cell in whatever tissue it finds itself, and stays there until that blood cell is about ready to die. Then it unscrews itself into the next blood cell that is live. So the only way they can detect it is when it is in this process or transition between blood cells. And that's when it can be detected through a microscope. So it is particularly difficult to identify. I think they're getting better at it as the microscope has a tendency to get stronger, and their science has gotten better at detecting things. So some people with a PTLDS didn't experience the acute symptoms of Lyme disease, and that's another thing is that maybe the tick fell off, maybe they never had the bullseye manifestation. They may have felt a little sick and just disregarded it, but this spirochete is still in their body. And that's the other thing too, is that some experts have a feeling that is because it lives off of a host, which is your blood cell, that it has this parasitical characteristic, and which also is difficult to get rid of. But there are lots of herbs and treatments that are available that have been successful for many people. And it used to be just treatment of antibiotics, and that was the only way the doctors knew how to deal with it. But some people who get Lyme disease don't remember having this tick bite, and that can be a problem. So it's considered a stealth bacteria, which means, of course, that it is really smart, knows how to hide. And so this Borrelia burgdorferi is, there are other types of bacteria carried by ticks, and they've been called the stealth bacteria. They have the ability to burrow into tissues, create cysts, and otherwise hide from both antibiotics and the immune system. So then it becomes what we consider autoimmune, where the immune system can't identify the problem, and so it starts attacking itself. And that's what autoimmune does, is that you start attacking yourself, and anything that you would use to stimulate the immune system worsens the symptoms of autoimmune. So you can see it is difficult and to deal with, but most disease-causing bacteria multiply rapidly and produce toxic substances which damage cells and can eventually kill the host. And these include Salmonella, C. botulinum, and E. coli. Bacteria like those associated with Lyme disease, however, both produce toxins and act like a parasite. So it's like they are hitchhiking a ride to the next host, which is a blood cell. And they don't reproduce, which is unusual because most of the time the object of, or the goal of the particular bacteria is to reproduce. Like in viruses, they come in and they multiply for a certain amount of time in the mucous membranes, and then it goes to like your Xerox machine and automatically starts reproducing itself through your own way of reproducing blood cells. So bacterial hitchhikers. When a tick bites, it releases its saliva that contains numbing compounds into the skin, so you don't feel the bite, and we talked about that. It also contains chemicals that inhibit the normal inflammatory reaction of the immune system. So the stealth bacteria enter your blood stream and search for a place to hide. So let's move me back over here. And the immune system is not altered because it is hidden in the blood cell. So there's nothing for it to be identified. There's nothing, it's like, oh, look somewhere else. No problem here type of thing. So the blood cell dies and the tick needs a new home. So on it goes to the next blood cell. So the problem with antibiotics have a harder time reaching bacteria burrowed in the tissues or in the blood. So Borrelia bacteria can also form cysts to hide from antibiotics. And so sometimes the cyst can be identified, but people don't realize that within that cyst is a bacteria. And so they get rid of the cyst, but then that bacteria is still there and it seeks out another home. So you really have only gotten rid of the symptom and not the cause. So there are certain neutrophils that are proficient at destroying cysts, and at the same time, you want to be able to have an antibacterial on hand in your body that can attack that bacteria. So a functioning immune system and not just antibiotics is needed to get rid of this stealth bacteria. So the mitochondrial dysfunction in Lyme disease is a thing that we really want to pay attention to. Now, the mitochondria is something that is pretty new. Scientists actually, when we finished the genome project, there was a lot more known about gene expression and how the mitochondria, which is the energy part of the cells, how they respond. And there's a lot more studies being done on the mitochondria. It's fascinating to know how our body produces energy and what it does with that energy. But the fact that it exists, and it kind of looks like a little potato type thing, you can see the shape of it here, and this is magnified many, many, many times. But decreased mitochondrial function in the brain can lead to chronic fatigue and brain fog. And many of us used to think, well, that was just candida. But is candida present because of Lyme? It's an interesting concept. And this whole thing about Lyme can mushroom into a multifaceted scientific studies. compromised mitochondria in our muscles can contribute to fibromyalgia. So you can see where when there is a problem with the mitochondria, the way the mitochondria is developing, how it expresses, can determine where the person has weakness. So it can be joint health, it can manifest as rheumatoid arthritis, and of course, then they treat the rheumatoid arthritis, but they're not treating the real cause, which would be this bacteria. So wherever there is genetic weakness, Lyme disease will make it worse. And that's the whole thing behind it. Now, what is its favorite food? Collagen. So they are attracted to this collagen-rich, where there's muscles, where there's fluid in the joints, in the brain, the eyes, the skin. They consume collagen, which can cause damage to muscles, joints, the heart, and the nervous system. So one of the answers is to give them collagen. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But I find this particular chart quite interesting. So Lyme Prevalence 2017 forecast, and you can see, look at the eastern states, and then it flips over here to Illinois, Wisconsin, upper Michigan. And of course, these are heavily forested areas, but there also was a lab that was studying, what is it called, foot and mouth disease in animals. They were requested by Canada to check into it for animal support, but people have lived outdoors in the past and certainly were bitten by ticks. And were people getting it and not knowing it? Or is there a stronger, perhaps genetically modified version that has been affecting people more rampantly in the last 3 or 4 years? Were there problems with this lab? So one of the things that we looked into is, was it lab engineered like COVID? Some claim that Lyme disease was introduced into the northeastern region of the United States by a man-made strain of Borrelia burgdorferi, and that it escaped from a highly contaminated biological warfare laboratory on Plum Island. So you can search that out. There's an interesting report done in 2007 by the DHS, and it found 539 security system vulnerabilities, and 93 of which were classified as high risk. So this was not up to par lab, and it has raised some doubt on whether or not the ticks were genetically modified and somehow escaped from there. And of course, they're not going to broadcast it because they don't want to be sued. But it is an interesting thing for some people to investigate. Now, there are emotional considerations that we want to examine. According to a renowned neuroscientist, David Perlmutter, now he's well known for his Better Brain book, many things, but he studied the mitochondrial energy, and he finds it synonymous with divine feminine energy. Well, there is masculine energy and there's feminine energy, and you can look into the masculine, but since he's talking about that, and it is true that we inherit all of our mitochondria from our maternal lineage alone. So the masculine energy, or the genetic predisposition, is passed down from the female, not from the male. Our culture tells us that to be valuable, we need to be productive, busy, making money, and getting famous. Lyme tells us another story. Loving ourselves unconditionally means taking time and space to heal. We need to release stress and pressure, whether from within or without, and cultivate peace, a soft, loving space where our mitochondria can regenerate. So we need to look, maybe it's a lesson in not an imbalance. So in other words, you've paid too much attention to this strive, 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 and not enough to recuperation, nurturing yourself, paying attention to yourself, listening to your intuition, knowing what's right for you, healing, calmness, meditation, being aware of your emotions. You know, men, the masculine likes to disregard emotion, rise above it, push through it, that type of thing. But oftentimes we need to express and communicate our emotions with others so that we can have a better relationship. So there is that concern. And now we want to talk about some natural remedies for Lyme disease. Dr. Sunjia K. Schweig, an advisor for the Bay Area Lyme Foundation, said, "This is why I love plants. Antibiotics have a single mechanism of action, and plants are very wide scope. So they're this antibiotics things are very focused and very targeted, and plants, on the other hand, can have hundreds of different active compounds that have a variety of different activities. So let's kind of look into what those can be. So potential herbal remedies, a study conducted at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health and published in the peer-reviewed journal Frontiers in Medicine found 7 herbs with potential benefit against the Borrelia bacteria in test tubes. So those top performers were Cryptolepis, Japanese knotwood, black walnut. Now, interesting enough, sweet wormwood and black walnut are both antiparasitical. There's cat's claw and rock rose and Chinese skullcap. And this person, Herod Buhner, wrote the book Healing Lyme Disease and Co-Infections. Very interesting. It's been around for quite a while. And if you're interested in furthering your education on Lyme, you might want to go into his book. There's also Dr. William Rawls, who has recommended some remedies. This is Japanese knotwood. And I don't know that in Michigan I've ever seen this. Maybe some people have, but it's not a familiar plant to me. Apparently it is a noxious weed, so I'm glad we have enough noxious weeds in Michigan. So, but in Dr. William Rawls' book, Unlocking Lyme, he recommends resveratrol in the form of Japanese knotweed. Now, we can get resveratrol from grapes and berries, peanuts. There's a wide variety of plants that provide us with resveratrol. I take a product that is liquid form, Tigo, that has a high resveratrol and other really good properties. So Endographis, cat's claw again, Chinese skullcap, garlic with stabilized allicin. So we know that garlic is a great antibacterial, the raw garlic. So that's what it means, stabilized allicin. And the company that I use, Nature Sunshine, has a great stabilized allicin product that is concentrated in cat It's not a capsule, it's a in pill form that is coated with chlorophyll. So it goes into the small intestine and then begins to work, and it lessens the degree of odor that is exuded, and yet keeps that allicin stable enough to be used properly. Sarsaparilla, cordyceps, which is a really interesting mushroom along with reishi, hawthorn, which helps the heart, and milk thistle, which of course helps to detoxify the liver. So some of the recommended nutrients, I heard Buhner recommends collagen and or bone broth. So if you make your own bone broth and you put a little vinegar in it and it gels, that's the collagen in the bone broth. If you're just making chicken broth, it's not going to be the same unless you have a good amount of bones. So if you have too much protein in the soup, it will not create this collagen that is necessary for support. And of course, our good old vitamin C, selenium, and zinc. Dr. William Rawl recommends glutathione, which is helps the liver to detoxify, as cis in certain pathways that create detoxification. Same thing with N-acetylcysteine, alpha lipoic acid, CoQ10, which oxygenizes the blood cell and helps in that manner. Vitamin D3, well, we all know how important vitamin D3 is in immune health. And omega-3 essential fatty acids. So there's some interesting things. I think that this particular herb is very interesting. Look at how the thorns kind of hook around, like exactly like a cat's claw would be, and it's called Inya Digato, and it has been a well-established herb in many natural protocols for Lyme. So it actually kind of claws out the Lyme bacteria from the blood cell. So it has an interesting mechanism of action. Excuse me. So it should not be taken by those who are on immune decreasing drugs. So if you have a transplant of some sort and you're put on a medication that deters the immune system so that it doesn't reject that organ, then you should not be on cat's claw. So cat's claw is highly recommended for Lyme infection. It enhances the lymphocytes and natural killer cells, including a specific natural killer cell that is deficient in the PT-LDS. So it calms overactive immune system and reduces inflammation. And one of the best herbs for restoring the gut. So the doses that are usually recommended are between 400 and 800 milligrams daily. So on the PT LDS suggested protocol. The exact protocol for this needs to be adapted to each individual. We are all unique and one size does not fit all. So, but the categories are, we want to work on the antimicrobials, immune modulators, not immune boosters like echinacea, because that can exacerbate the symptoms. We want restorative remedies, things that will help build the body. That's what bone broth does. It's a great builder, a tonic for the body. And other remedies should be added to strengthen organs and systems affected. So like the hawthorn, if your heart is being affected by this bacteria, then hawthorn is one of the suggested remedies. There's some great antimicrobials for Lyme disease. The top picks, of course, are this Japanese knotwood or resveratrol, Endographis, Chinese skullcap, cat's claw, which is readily available. It comes from South America. And other possibilities, of course, are the garlic, the sarsaparilla, the cryptolepis, and sweet Annie. Sweet Annie is a really beautiful anti-parasitical, and it is well grown in Michigan. I grew it a few years back. It was really very pretty, ferny. You should look into that. So Endographis is a bitter antimicrobial herb, highly recommended for Lyme infection. Brunner recommends putting it on tick bites to prevent infection. However, I'm not sure how available it is in the Midwest. I believe that in the western states it's more available. It is a beautiful plant. You can see the bloom. We'll see a better look on that. It's also used for colds, infections, diarrhea, flu, giardia, malaria, mononucleosis, pneumonia, strep throat, tonsillitis. So getting some of that and having it on hand might be a great idea. Some immune modulators for PTLDS would be ashwagandha. Now, I love ashwagandha. My husband and I both take that. We take one morning and one evening. And it is very protective and supportive for the immune system, not strengthening or boosting it, but actually strengthening it, not boosting it. So eleuthero is also another one. Licorice, cordyceps from China is another really good one, but you must be careful about the source of the cordyceps because we find that there's a lot of contamination, that things that come from China, and so that's why I depend on Nature's Sunshine for my source. But you can look into it. There's other reputable sources out there. I will put a link in the description below for finding out more about the Nature's Sunshine and their quality control. So reishi mushroom, vitamin C, zinc, and selenium, which are all recommended highly for even COVID. So you can work on both bacteria and viruses when you work with natural remedies. So this is what cordyceps looks like. It decreases inflammatory cytokines while aiding the natural killer cells and macrophage activity to help fight infection. And this is general infection. This isn't like, okay, you got to have a vaccine for this particular thing. This is general. This is wonderful. This is non-toxic support. So it's a general tonic that helps many, many things in the body, and it also protects the heart. It has great kidney support. So the dose is 1 to 3 grams, about 2 to 6 capsules daily. And this is when you are already struggling with a condition and you're having joint pain, or you know that you have these symptoms and that they've been long-standing. It's really beneficial for the whole body. So formulas to consider, let's look at. So there is a product called seasonal cold and flu formula, and Endographis is included in that, and we saw how many references to that particular herb. Thyme leaf, which I'm growing myself. I love to add thyme to soups and that. Bitter orange, eleuthero root, oregano leaf. I both grow thyme and oregano in my garden, and I love to add it to different things. But here's a product that has the right ingredients at the right amount. and it's a natural infection fighter. And so if you're interested in the IF Relief Blend, then maybe you can look into that and look into the description below. So there is an anti-inflammatory pain formula that is actually the ashwagandha is next, but this one I've used for, again, Endographis. This one has boswellia gum, mangosteen pericarp. Oh my goodness, that's a really great one. Turmeric, we've heard tons about turmeric. And white willow bark, that's been known for almost a century now. It's where the basis of aspirin came from, white willow. And then, of course, they made a drug out of it. Whereas white willow is very balanced, the aspirin was very targeted, and it created problems. It created bleeding in the intestinal lining. So this one is the one Buhner recommends, and boswellia for pain and Lyme disease is really helpful because it can be very, very painful. So this helps with the reduction of the inflammation and pain. So the gut immune formula has cat's claw bark, astragalus, and echinacea root. Now, some echinacea is good, but we remember if we're dealing with a high amount of autoimmune, this product would not be the best. And so it's really helpful to work with somebody who is knowledgeable about herbs. And there are lots of people out there that have wonderful information that can support you. Google is not the most effective place to go, Dr. Google. So, but this particular one contains the cat's claw to help fight Lyme infection, which we have seen its particular thing about pulling out the bacteria from the blood cell. It has that signature of pulling out. Astragalus complements the echinacea in this product because astragalus is a very modulating herb. So it is highly recommended for this by many of those who work with Lyme disease. There's also this Hyaluronic. Now, this means that it is reactive free radicals. It kills free radicals at any point. Now, green tea, we know a lot of information is out there about the benefits of green tea. And we talked a bit about mangosteen. Turmeric is well known. Apple fruit, now that's interesting, but we know an apple a day keeps the doctor away. So acai berry, quercetin, resveratrol, and selenium. So this one can be taken on a daily basis just to support good health. And so it contains resveratrol, one of the highly recommended Lyme fighting infection supports, and it may be helpful for reducing inflammation. So you can take as many as 4 per day or start with 2. Cardiovascular protection blend has the vitamin K2, vitamin B6, folate, vitamin B12, resveratrol, hawthorn berry. It contains resveratrol, one of the highly recommended supplements for fighting Lyme disease. Both experts that we talked about in this video also recommended the resveratrol. And hawthorn, which is great for the heart and protecting the cardiovascular tissue. Ashwagandha, another one, like I said, we take every day. It has the bacopa, black pepper. And when you want to take ashwagandha or turmeric. It is recommended that you take the black pepper fruit extract with it because it helps it get absorbed better. Schizandra and rhodiola is in this product, and so this one is recommended for like when you're having the brain fog and mental fatigue. The mushroom immune blend is great. Cordyceps, reishi, turkey tail, chaga, shiitake, and agaricus are all included in this wonderful mushroom blend. I've added this for soups. I put it in omelets. You can add it into a variety of food items. And then Watkins Skin and Care, so that's the skin and nails and hair. So horsetail is the main thing that's in this. Dulse fronds, rosemary leaf, and sage leaf. So the HSNW is what this one is. So if there are any questions, I hope that you put them in the comment below and that you've enjoyed the Herbal Hour for August. And in September, we're going to be talking about viral infections and what we can do about them in general. So I hope that you join us in September for that class. And it's been such a pleasure giving this class and researching it for you. Again, this is Dr. Mary. I'm a traditional naturopath, and you can reach me by email at drmary@bornforhealth.com. And I look at my website and get lots of more information from that. And I hope that you pay close attention to looking for these nasty little bugs when you go for a walk, and be safe and enjoy the nature and all of God's goodness around you.